prophet, meaning upstairs in heaven. He's going to die. Yet we don't see any reluctancy on the side of Shaul with his amazing courage and bravery. He goes to war. We like to cite some points here, even though we learned parts of the chapter in our last year. It says clearly here that in Pasuk Aleph, when we want to prove the idea that we left the battlefield first, and then we had a bunch of soldiers fell in war, we can see that what Chazal say in a Mishnah Mesechet Sotah. Let's read source Aleph actually. It says in the Mishnah Mesechet Sotah, Kol hamevakesh lachzor arashut biyado. If you want to leave the war and not fight, you have permission. Okay? Arashut biyado lekapech et shokav. You can fold your loins, your legs, but that's a problem. If you're going to leave the war, Chazal say shetchilat nisa nefila. When you begin to run away, that's the beginning of your fall. We don't run away. When you show the enemy you're running away, it's a fall. Where does Chazal prove this from? Shenemar, as it says, Nas Yisrael lefnei plishtim v'gam megefa gedol hayta ba'am. That's already in chapter 4, when the Mishkan was going to be destroyed. Ulahalanu omer, and up ahead in Shmuel Aleph it says, and that's our chapter 31, Vayanusu Yisrael mipnei plishtim vayiplu chalalim. You see, first there's fleeing, and then there's fall. What I want to ask you though, where did the war start? As you look inside the scripture itself, chapter 31, verse 1, you see, Uflishtim nilchamim b'Yisrael. Now I'm going to ask you, where are they fighting? And then it says, Vayanusu anshe Yisrael mipnei plishtim vayiplu chalalim b'hara Gilboa. I think what the Tanakh is saying, we met in the battlefield down below. Down below under the Gilboa is a flat area, the Jezreel Valley, right in front of the Beit Shan Valley. From that flat valley, we fled. Where did we fall? We started climbing up the mountain. That's what can be proven from here. We started climbing up the Gilboa with the hope that the cavalry, the horses and the chariots of the Plishtim will not be able what? To catch us. Because you're climbing a mountain, correct? However, they caught us. And where did the soldiers of Israel fall? B'hara Gilboa. So you can see maybe the Torah only notes where they fell. But it could very well be that the war started in the valley area, then we started fleeing, and we fell in the Gilboa. There's room to see this. Number 2, Pasuk Bet, we learned that the shooters are getting closer. And we hear the unfortunate news in Pasuk Bet about the fall of 3 sons, of Pasuk Bet. The 3 sons of Shaul, and they are, number 1, Yonatan, number 2, Avinadav, and number 3, Malkishua. Avinadav and Malkishua, all 3. That's quite traumatic.
Right?
What's what?
That was the punishment that he showed. Right?
Oh, so we're going to be learning basically, there's going to be on Shaul 3 violations, 3 major sins. And maybe his passing away, together with his sons, it could be an expression of 3 sins. As we're summing up Shaul's life and career here, was a great courageous person, first king of Israel, but had great downfall in the end, and the Tanakh doesn't shy away from sharing this. Number 1, the sin in Nov. Shaul was full of jealousy. He accepted the fact that the Kohanim in Nov are collaborating with David against Shaul, and he doesn't ask advice. He just listens to which conspirer, Doeg Adomi. So that's one major sin. Another major sin which happened earlier in the beginning of his career is when he was told to wait for the prophet in Gilgal. And he was afraid the Plishtim are coming in, going to be attacking. He already brought offerings in Gilgal, if you remember. We learned that much earlier in the Sefer. And he didn't wait for Shmuel. That's a major problem. Another major violation or sin or fall of Shaul, of course, is his sin with Amalek. He went to war. He was given clear instructions by the prophet Shmuel what has to be done. Amalek is a Torah mitzvah, like we read 2 weeks ago. And who did he leave alive? cattle, sheep, what else? Agag, the king of Amalek, was led alive. We're going to learn more in the next chapters in Shmuel Bet, how these lackings and shortcomings are really coming to him. But yes, we see here the fall of his sons. Now, when you see it happening, it must be devastating. Okay? As we continue reading in chapter 31, I just lost the place. I'm sorry, 1 second. Must be windy day today. What does he see? The war is getting closer. Who are the Morim? Vayinsu ha-Morim. Morim are those Yorim Bekeshet. Yorim Bekeshet, those sharpshooters that are shooting with their bows and arrows. They're getting closer. Vayachel me'od me'amorim. There's tremendous fear that's going now by Shaul. Okay? Right now he watched and saw the fall of his sons, and now he sees how the situation is getting even more devastating. He knows his time is coming closer. We read about the incident that we're going to deal with for the moment now, that Shaul asked his arms bearer, take out your sword and kill me. Okay? Why? Why is it important for the Tanakh to tell us why? We're going to be dealing with the question, the obvious question of what's called in halacha, hamabed atzmo ladat. If you willingly, knowingly take your way of life, we know, we're going to learn in the Torah. You can see it right now. Look at source bet on your source sheet. What does the Torah say in Bereshit chapter 9 about taking your life away? Source bet on your source sheet. Hello? Source bet on your source sheet. The Torah says in Genesis 9, V'achen, however, et dimchem lenafshotechem edrosh. The blood of yourselves I will beseech. From who? Miyad kol chayad roshenu umiyad ha'adam. Miyad ish achiv edrosh et nefesh adam. What are we talking? We're talking about suicide. In Pasuk Vav, shofech dam ha'adam. The person that spills the blood of man, ba'adam damo yishafech. His blood himself will be, what? Will be demanded. Why? Ki betzelem elokim asat adam. We don't have a right to take away our life, our lives away, because we're created in a divine image. We have a divine side of ourselves that we're not in control of. It's a great merit, it's a great gift, and we have to respect it. The question is, will Shaul now are we convinced now that Shaul is taking his life away? He's committing suicide and therefore he should be punished by this? If that's the case, what's so important telling us the reason why? First of all, he's asking what? His arms bearer to kill him. Let's read in Pasuk Dalin in verse 4. Pen yavo ha'arelim ha'ela. He curses the Plishtim and calls them the foreskin, the ones with uncircumcision. Udikaruni. They're going to stab me. Vita'alalubi. They're going to abuse me. Chop off my head. Chop off my arm. No, they won't kill me right away. But his arms bearer does not want to do this. In the middle of verse 4, V'lo avad nosei chelav ki yarei me'od. So he himself, his arms bearer, is not willing to do this. What is the fear? We know what the Plishtim are like. We know that they've lost wars against Israel before. They lost in Michmas not long ago when Yonatan surprised them. And but now this is the war they want to win. Shaul is told he's going to die by Samuel. The spirit of Samuel was brought up by the Baalato, by the woman of the Ov. He's afraid that he's going to be abused, that he's going to be tortured, that he's going to be even before he dies. And therefore he's going to be suffering. Is this why the prophet is writing this? Okay? He's afraid of what? But he didn't want to do it. What does Shaul do himself? He takes his sword, he falls on his sword. Now we're talking about someone that's so courageous, so strong. Apparently he fell on a sharp sword. The question is he dead right now or not? Let's read Pasuk 5. The Torah says mate, but it could mean that he's close to dying. It could mean that his soul is exiting his body right now. But it doesn't mean that he dies totally. Why? When we learn the next chapter, chapter 1, and when David finds this Amalekian servant, And if you skip to verse 9 of the next chapter, we see that Shaul is still alive. Verse 9 of the next chapter. Right now, the injury that he had by or walking into, falling onto his sword is about to kill him, but he's not dead yet. Who's finishing him off? It seems, according to the story here of the Amaleki in chapter 1 of the next book, that it is he that is doing it. So, no, the Amalekian servant.
Who's the arms bearer, right?
Not the arms bearer, someone else. We see here. Look, it seems here. It seems that he's a servant of Shaul. He's a nar, and he's telling the story to David. He tells him, "I'm an Amalekian," and he says that Shaul asked him, finish me off. He did it, and he finished him off, and so on and so forth. If that story is not true, do we say that Shaul committing suicide here is the wrong thing what he did? So therefore we want to discuss this halachically. What do our great sages say? Look bevakasha in letter Gimel. There's a book Nachmanides wrote called Torah Adam, the law of man. You see it? Haramban, you see it? Ramban Shara Sof, this is the last gate of the book, and it's regarding eulogies. And he writes the following. Bigadol, regarding a great person, she'ibed atzmo ladat, that he committed suicide. Why? Mipnei ha'ones, shemaspidim oto, because he feels he's in coercion. If he's not going to kill himself, he feels that what? The Plishtim are going to come and cause him suffering. They're going to pain him, afflict him. A person like that, do we eulogize? Because usually we say that someone that, God forbid, takes his life away. I'm reading it right now. I have the Shulchan Aruch Yoradea, meaning what the tour of the Shulchan Aruch wrote, not Rabbi Yosef Karo. Okay, you see the Sefer, Chaim? It's called the tour. Over here, look at me. This is called the tour. This is what Rabbi, the son of the Rosh, wrote. Rabbi Yaakov Balaturim, and then Rav Yosef Cairo has his commentary called the House of Yosef, the Beit Yosef. After that came Rav Yosef Cairo, and he wrote the Shulchan Aruch. But he adopted the chapters of the Torah, the one that wrote these columns. The Torah writes based on the Gemara. Someone that commits suicide knowingly, we don't deal with him. Listen to what I'm reading now. I'm reading now from here. We don't tear our garments. We don't take off our shoes. We don't eulogize him. We do stand at the funeral. We make a row, and we say the blessing of the mourners. Okay. And then he talked about what does it really mean committing suicide. Committing suicide. I want to read to you. What is it? Letter Hey.
What is the Rosh scripture?
This is the Beit Yosef, Rav Yosef Cairo. No, probably not as well. What did I want to share with you? Letter.
Yosef Cairo wrote in the Rosh script.
That's how they published the writings. It's Gimel. Let me see if I can find Gimel here. Okay. What about a minor? God forbid, a minor takes a katan. If a minor takes his life away, okay, it's considered as if he doesn't know what he's doing. Why? Kevan delav bar datu. He doesn't have dat. He's a minor. He's not bar mitzvah yet. His intellect is not yet developed. So too, the Torah writes, an adult that commits suicide, yet he's coerced. He's in a state of that he feels he has no choice. Like who? Like Shaul HaMelech. So the Torah writes here, like Shaul HaMelech, Ein monim mimenu kol, all the laws of mourning and burial and all whatever is involved in the customs of the Jewish people regarding the dead, we practice if it's a state of coercion. What does he mean, coercion? So if you look at the Beit Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Cairo, he brings the Ramban, Nachmanides, 400 years earlier than him in Spain, the Ramban. And we have the Ramban right here in letter Gimel. I'm reading. Bigadol, regarding an adult, she'ibed atzmo ladat, that he did commit suicide knowingly, mipnei ha'ones, because he feels he's no other choice, it's a state of coercion, shemaspidim until we will eulogize him when at the funeral. Kidgon, for example, Shaul Melech Yisrael. What did he do? She'ibed atzmo, he fell on the sword, he took his life away. Ela shahaya avudo. You know what? He would have been gone. He would have been killed anyway. He would have been killed by the Plishtim. Therefore, he writes, mutarlo. It's permitted for him to do what he did. Where is this learned? Where does the Ramban get this? 1,000 years earlier, Midrashic source. Kidamrin, and as we state, Breshit Rabbah. There's the Midrash Rabbah series on the book of Breshit. Quote, Ach, but your blood, I'm going to beseech if you take away your own blood. Okay? I'm skipping to the middle of the third line. Could it be someone that he's being pursued by the enemy and they're about to kill him? He too is not allowed to take his life away? Kishaol, like Saul, Talmud Lomar. Therefore the Torah teaches us, Ach. If you look higher in the source, the Torah, no, that's Eich. What is Ach? But, however, it's a word that's coming to exclude a certain case. Until now, anyone who commits suicide, God will take an ordeal with him. God will make a din. You're not allowed to take your life away. Why does the Torah say the word ach? Ach is limiting. Ach is but. However, in contrast, someone that's in a state of coercion, like Shaul, that if he doesn't take his life away right now, the enemies are coming to kill him. They're going to murder him and probably cause him affliction and abuse and pain. He wants to prevent it. Is this supported by the Torah? I wouldn't be so nice to. Is this supported by the Torah? Yes. Midrash Chazal, the Ramban brings this in his book called Torat Adam, that someone that's being pursued to be killed by the enemy, like Shaul, furthermore, he's told the day before by Samuel the prophet that he's going to die. He is not under the case, what we read right now in Yoredea, chapter 345, Hama'abed atzmo ledat, someone who's willingly, knowingly taking his life away. Then we don't have a lot of laws of mourning and a lot of laws of eulogizing. Why? Because he committed suicide, God forbid. Here, the Ramban brings this midrash at the end of the third line in Hebrew, just for you. Lefichach. Therefore, lo haya bichlal ma'abed atzmo ledat. Therefore, Shaul is not under the criteria that he's taking away his life knowingly. V'ne'enshu alav keshelo espidu oto kiroi. Kedarin and b'Yavamot. What does the Gemara say, Masechet Yavamot? That when Shaul, remember we saw at the continuation of the chapter, the Plishtim were terrible. They cut off his head, they chopped up his body, they put it inside the wall of the city of Beit Shan. We're up north by the Gilboa. Remember the Gilboa? Tell him you'll teach him a little geography, right? And they put him in the wall. We'll learn shortly, very brave, courageous Jews from the other side of the Jordan River came and took care of him. But Chazal say he was not eulogized properly.
For that reason.
They thought they eulogized him because he committed suicide. But he says the people that didn't eulogize him, ne'enshu alav, meaning they received onesh, they received punishment. Kedarin b'Yavamot, as it says in Yavamot Ayin Chet, Vayomer Hashem al Shaul va'beit adamim. We're going to learn later. We're going to learn about God speaking about Shaul and the house of blood. What will that mean? Al Shaul shelo nispat kehalacha. Shaul was not eulogized halachically. A great king of Israel. They made a mistake. They didn't know what the halacha is. And here we bring the Ramban, based upon Midrash Rabbah. The tour of the Shulchan Aruch is posek halacha like this. Who brings the Ramban? The Beit Yosef. And therefore, if I look even further, maybe it's not the halacha. If I look even further, I open up the Shulchan Aruch, Yoredea, Shin Mem Hey, chapter 345. Katana mabed atzmo ladat, chashuv shelo ladat. A minor that takes away his life, God forbid, it's considered that he doesn't have dat. He's not responsible for what he did. So to a gadol, an adult, That he took his life away. But he's under a state of coercion, a state of that he doesn't have any other choice. The enemy's coming to chop him up and going to cause him a lot of pain. Kish Shaul HaMelech, just like Saul the king. Ein monim mimenu kol davar. We don't abstain or prevent anything. We're talking about burial and eulogizing and mourning. He should deserve everything. So we see here, according to all our halachic sources, Ramban, Tur, Shulchan Aruch, that Shaul is not going to be held responsible for taking his life away when he falls on the sword. Gentlemen, let's just review a few more of the points here in the chapter. Pasuk Zayin.
How did the people know that he committed suicide? Those who got his body.
We have an account. There were those that stayed alive from the war, saw the events happening, and told David.
We read later that it was a servant who...
Oh, so I'm going to have to try to understand it. If he really didn't commit suicide, maybe the servant is obligated that David kills him. Yeah. David kills that Amalekim person. We're going to see that. We'll treat that, God willing, when we get to here. Gentlemen, we read at the end of the chapter, from verses Zayin and on, let's just read it quickly here. On the other side of the valley, meaning the Jezreel Valley, the Beit Shan Valley, we're back now in verse 7 inside the Tanakh. Kinasu Anshe Yisrael. They heard the bad news that the Jews nasu. What is lanus? To retreat. V'chimetu Shaul banav. Shaul and his 3 sons died. Vayazu et harim vayinusu. The Jewish towns here in the Jezreel Valley, the Jews are fleeing. What do they think? Who's next? Maybe they're next to be hit by what? The people of the Plishtim. So the Anshe Shfela, the low ground people, the people of the Bik'ah, the valley, the Jordan Valley, they see that there's no more hope. The king has been killed. 3 of his sons have been killed. Right now, they leave the area out of fear of the Plishtim.
Is any rabbi who speak Portuguese?
Maybe in the Spanish department, top floor.
I spoke with the Spanish.
Okay. Right now, I'm in the middle of the shir. Excuse me. Thank you. Welcome. Pasuk Chet.
Yeah.
Pasuk Chet. Vayimi mochorat, the day after. Vayvo plishtim lefashet chalim. It's nighttime. The nighttime passes by. Come the plishtim, and what do? They undress the Jews that they killed. And who do they find? They find someone with royal clothing, I assume. Apparently he and his 3 sons, I assume, have different types of clothing. They're the generals. They're the high officers. Noflim Bar Gilba. Now they know exactly who they killed. It's not nighttime anymore. What do? They do terrible things, acts of war. Pasuk Tet, follow the reading in Hebrew. Pasuk Tet, Vayichretu et Rosho, they chop off his head. Vayafshitu et Kelav, they take off all his clothing. Vayishalchu beretz Plishtim Saviv, and now they send his clothing back to the southwest of Israel. We are victors. Here is the clothing of the king. They put it in their idolatry places. Beit Atzabehem. Okay, and some of you know it from Tilim. Atzabehem Kesav V'Zahav. Okay, and they're now giving thanks to their idolatry by sending the clothing of the king to these places. Pasuk Yud Vayasimut Kelav Beit Ashtarot. What are Ashtarot? The Plishtim are also a agricultural-based nation. The Torah uses a term regarding the flocks of sheep in the book of Dvarim, Ashtarot Zon. Ashtarot Zon. So they have their places of idolatry which are sacred to them regarding their flocks of sheep. They're pronouncing, spreading the word in their places of idolatry. And what do they do with the body? They stuck in the wall, the stone wall, the body of Shaul. And now, in the last 3 psukim, we hear and learn about acts of brotherly heroism. Let's see it. Pasuk Yud Aleph, verse 11. Vayishmu elav yoshvei yavesh Gilad. Who's on the other side of the Jordan River? And maybe for reasons of proximity, the Jews living in the Giladi mountains. Okay? If right now you're sitting right now in Beit Shan, the Beit Shan Valley, a lovely development town en route to the further north to Tiberias, and you just look To your east, you see the lovely Giladi Mountains. Hopefully we'll see parts of this mountain range this Shabbos, if we have some visibility this Shabbos, the most southern part of the range. But Yavesh Gilad, they respond. And the question is it because they're closest? On the other side of the Jordan River, we have the Giladi Mountains. Down below is the tribe of God. On top is probably half of Menachem. And what do? They hear about the tremendous desecration of God's name. And Pasuk Yud Bet, what do? A very heroic event at nighttime. I don't have to tell you, Bechlal, if our soldiers are doing missions today at nighttime in Jenin and in Shechem and so on and so forth, it's very dangerous when it's nighttime. I know we have all the technology, we all have the telescopic Riyat Laila, night vision, and so on and so forth. I think it was last night, Sayeret Golani was in the area of Kedumim or something, and they saw some terrorists shooting at them, and they knocked them off. That's some M16s in their cars, and Mitanim, Baruch Hashem, thank God. It's hard to fight at night, right? It's hard to fight at night. Here, what are they doing? Let's read Pasuk Yud Bet, verse 12. Vayakumu kol ish chayil. Anyone with valor in that area stands up. Vayachu kol alayla. They go on a trek. They go on a hike all night. That means they're coming down the Giladi Mountains, crossing the Jordan River, coming up now towards the Gilboa area or Beit Shan area. Apparently they have intelligence information that the body of Shul, Gviyah, is a corpse. Gimel Vav Yud. Do you see the word? Gviyah is a corpse. Corpse of Shul. Pasuk Yud Bet. Vet Gviyot Banav. They see the bodies of his sons as well. Mechomat Beit Shan. What do? They grab it. They take it. What a heroic act. Vayavo Yavesha. And they go back to their area called Yavesh Gilad. Some say maybe there's not a lot of rainfall. I don't know the source being why it's called Yavesh Gilad, dry Gilad. Okay? Before we get to the last three words, Vayisrafu ot Hashem, they're burning, which we related to briefly. We're going to get to it again. Why is it that these Jews in the Yavesh Gilad, you can start opening up, we're finishing the parak. Why is it that the people in Yavesh Gilad are doing this heroic act? Is it only because of proximity? Because they're the closest tribe in the area. There could be someone, Yisachar, Zvulun, in the area, a few kilometers away. They're also probably in the proximate area. Would you like him to pour you some strawberry banana? Okay, just say that.
If you want.
Just pass out the mizonot first. We're Siyum Shmuel Aleph of 4 or 5 months of learning, huh? 5 months, 6 months of learning.
No,
Less?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe 3 months.
4 times. Now listen. If some of you remember when when Shaul became king, thank you so much. It's kosher? It's kosher. When Shaul became king, does anyone remember on the other side of the Jordan River is a nation called Ammon, Jordan. Then it was Ammon and Moab, the two sons that started out, the two children of Lot that had relations with his daughters, you remember. They grew into becoming nations. They threatened, on the other side of the Jordan, the Jews living on the other side of the Jordan. Who is in desperate need of being rescued? The tribe or the Jews living in these towns, Yavesh Gilad. The Ammonite kingdom was threatening them. And there was a call. There was a king called Nachash, a snake. Nachash, the king of Bnei Ammon. He was threatening to do bad things against the tribes living there. He says, you stole our land. Holy baloney, what land did we steal? It was Ammon and Moab were captured by Sichon, the king of Amorites. Remember that? Sichon captured Ammon and Moab, and then they fought us at war against Moshe Rabbeinu. We took over the land. Who answers the call? Shaul. He goes there, brings his troops, fights a war, and rescues these people a few years ago. So maybe the answer to the question is, it's not because of proximity that they're coming closer to save Shaul. They have a check to pay. They have hakarat tov. They want to recognize the good that was done to them, that Shaul saved our life with the army of Israel. So maybe that's what they're doing. What is the burning? What are they burning here? So the Gemara, Mishnah Masechet Sanhedrin, deals with the following. If you are a king, no one is allowed to use not your car, not your parachute, not your clothing, not your bed, and not anything. It's halacha. Why? It's called Kvod Malchut. It's called Kvod Malchut. Therefore, if you look and see source, Radak. The Radak, if we answer question number 5, what are they burning? We can provide 3 answers here in letter Zayin. The Radak, Rabbeinu David ben Kimchi, one of the great Rishonim, he says the following, we're going to read it in Hebrew. Vayisrafu otam sham, tirgem Yonatan. What does he mean? Efshar shayad dato kimo shekatvu rabotenu sorfim ala melachim. Yonatan ben Uziel, Zatana, says when we have kings that are passing away, we burn their matters that it's not going to be used by others. Umayim sorfim alayim. What do they burn? Mitatan, their beds. Klei tashmishan, all their kelim, their vehicles. Okay, that's answer number 1. They're destroying, burning, that no one, God forbid, violate a royal prohibition that God enacted in the Torah, that we don't use the kelim of a king. Answer number 2. Oh, dato al sreifat pisamim. Maybe the fire that Anshe of Eshkelat are making is to give a good scent and odor. Just like what? The doctors embalmed the body of Yosef. They wanted to provide, look, the body was probably staunching. It was stuck in the wall for, who knows, 24 hours or so. And they made a burning of bisamim in the area when they're about to bury them, in order that there be a better odor. Kvod malchut. A third answer, and this is the more severe answer, v'yitachen. What does v'yitachen mean? And it's possible, lefarish, to explain, ki abasar sarfu. They burnt the flesh of Shaul and their sons. Why? Shehe'ela rima. Already worms were rising in the body. When the body was standing out inside the wall of Beit Shan, it started developing worms. V'lo ratzu lekovra mimatolayim. It's not kavod to bury Shaul and his sons with the worms in him. And therefore they decided to do the burning of the body, leave the skeleton, the bones, and bury the bones. So this is how the dramatic chapter ends. They fast 7 days. 7 days because a tremendous, terrible national event happened. The king was killed, his sons were killed, we lost the war. They did the great chesed, the hakarat tov, take him out of the wall, burying them, and fasting 7 days. Tomorrow we start B'ezrat Hashem, Shmuel Bet Purpose Aleph. I don't want to show everyone that I'm eating.
Yes, sure.